Bonjour mes élèves, c'est Madame Brown et aujourd'hui on va parler des verbes pronominaux en français. I'm Madame Brown and today we're going to talk about reflexive verbs in French, stating actions we take upon ourselves or actions that the subject of the sentence takes upon themselves. For example, je me promène, I take a walk. In English, we say I brush my teeth, I take a bath, I sit down, I put on makeup. The French, however, would say je me brosse les dents, je me baigne, je m'assieds, or je me maquille. Now remember, je m'assieds can also be je m'assois. It has two different conjugations in the present tense. Notice that all of the French sentences begin with je me or M', as opposed to simply je by itself. Je me brosse les dents literally means I myself brush the teeth. This clarifies that you are brushing your teeth yourself, not someone else's. Previously, you've learned to conjugate verbs in the present tense, looking at brosser, to brush. Je brosse ends with an E, tu brosses ends with an ES, il brosse, elle brosse, on brosse ends with an E, nous brossons ends with ONS, vous brossez ends with EZ, and il brosse, elle brosse ends with ENT in the third person plural. Now, to make these verbs reflexive, you have to add a reflexive pronoun between the subject and the verb. Je me brosse, tu te brosses, il se brosse, elle se brosse, on se brosse, nous nous brossons, vous vous brossez, il se brosse, elle se brosse. So we have our subject pronouns here on the left, our reflexive pronouns in the middle, and our conjugated verb on the right. Now, there are a few key things you need to remember. The reflexive pronoun must stay close to the conjugated verb. For example, elle ne se lève pas. They are not getting up. The se stays connected to the conjugated verb. The ne pas has to go around both. Est-ce qu'elle se promène? Is she taking a walk? Te peignes-tu? Are you combing your hair? Il ne s'est jamais douché. He never showered. Now, in this one, this is in the passé composé, and your conjugated verb is être, not doucher. Doucher is a past participle. So, se is attached to est, the auxiliary verb. Reflexive verbs use être in the passé composé as an auxiliary verb, not avoir. This is because the subject is changing their state of being. This means you also have to make agreement with the past participle. For example, in that last sentence, if the subject were female, an E would be added to the past participle. Elle n'est jamais douchée. She never showered. Also, remember, me, te, and se become M', T', and S' before a verb beginning with a vowel or a silent H. For example, elle s'appelle Claire. Jean s'habille. Jean is getting dressed. Il s'assied là-bas. They are sitting over there. Remember also that verbs that are reflexive in French are not necessarily reflexive in English. For example, nous nous réveillons tôt. We wake up early. Il se dépêche. They are hurrying. Elle se couche maintenant. She is going to bed right now. And one more thing, some reflexive verbs use a reflexive pronoun even when there is a direct object, typically in regards to the body. For example, je me lave, I'm washing myself, right? Je me lave les mains, I'm washing my hands. So my hands is a direct object. I also want to point out here that we use les, right? This is a definite article, not a possessive article, such as mes. Je me lave mes mains. Now, it's not to say that you'll never hear je me lave les mains or je lave mes mains. You'll definitely hear it or read it occasionally, but traditionally, classically, this is what we're being taught, that with your body parts, you use the definite article, not a possessive article. By contrast, okay, let's go back to this direct object pronoun, direct object thing. By contrast, a reflexive pronoun would not be used in the following sentence because the subject is not doing the action to themselves. Je lave le chien. I'm washing the dog. The dog is a direct object. I'm not doing this to myself, so I don't need the reflexive pronoun me. And finally, most transitive verbs can become reflexive verbs when used with a reflexive pronoun. What's a transitive verb? It's a verb without a direct it's a verb with a direct object, which is pretty much most of your verbs. So, je me donne un cadeau. I'm giving myself a gift. Gift is a direct object. I'm giving a gift. I could say I'm giving a gift to Paul, right? The gift is the direct object. Paul is an indirect object. Je me donne un cadeau. I'm giving it to myself. So I need that reflexive pronoun. Je m'achète un joli chemisier. I'm buying myself a pretty blouse. What am I buying? Un joli chemisier. That's the direct object. I could say I'm buying a pretty blouse for my friend. But because I'm buying it for myself, we add the possessive pronoun, me. And then finally, if you want to study more, here are some links that you might want to check out. An essential list of reflexive verbs on Quizlet. These are just flashcards. And then an extension list of reflexive verbs also on Quizlet. If you like to play Book It, there's 2 sets here of reflexive verbs, set A and set B. And if you like to play Kahoot, I have 2 Kahoots for reflexive verbs, one just on the present tense and one on reflexive verbs in the passé composé, which gets a little bit complicated because remember, sometimes these verbs can still be used in a sentence, as we saw with laver, but it's not necessarily reflexive when there's a direct object that's not related, that's not the subject themselves doing the action to themselves, if that makes sense. Anyway, bonne journée, au revoir, à la prochaine.